And post.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we're working on restoring and signing and all that stuff. Seems like I found the right group of people for that.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I'll come around and look at that. I'm just interested now. Because we're immersed in
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
We haven't touched the outside yet.
Well, it's a lot of time. Yeah.
All right, we are live. Chair Stewart.
Okay, fantastic. I'd like to call to order the Township of Cavan-Lonigan Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee for Thursday, March 20th, 2025 at 9:15. Move on to our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Cavan-Lonigan is located on the Treaty 20 Michi-Saugee territory in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saugee and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. So we can move on to the approval of the agenda. Mark circulated that last week. I'm not sure if people have a chance to look through the agenda and the attached minutes. If you haven't, if you could take a quick look through those now. And when we're ready, if I could have a mover and a seconder, please. John, seconder. Deborah, thank you. All in favor? Motion passed. Thank you. Assuming there is no disclosure of the preliminary interest, we can all make sure they're up today, so we can move on. As I mentioned, the minutes of the last meeting, which were February 20th, 2025, were attached to the meeting agenda. Again, assuming everything's had a chance, or please look at them now. Oh,
Excuse me,
sorry.
Chair Stewart.
Yeah.
So a little mea culpa on my part.
Okay. Oh, yes.
My brain was fried. It's one of those things when you edit, you don't look at that part. I included Deborah Luchuk as attending the meeting. Nothing against you, Deb, but you were not here, so we need to have that correct. So that is the only thing that needs to be amended in it. So
Yeah.
if it can be, the motion would be for them to be approved as amended, would be
Yeah.
my recommendation.
Okay.
True attending.
Yeah.
It was. It was.
Yeah. So may I have a motioner and a seconder? Thank you, Deborah. Seconder? John, all in favor? Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, jumping into reports. I didn't see any bullet points under that. Mark, can you
There
make
are
that?
none for this meeting.
Okay.
The weight of the meeting is going to be in the work plan
Okay.
as mostly
As-
usual for this
as
one.
usual? Okay, great. Already, item number 7, general business, our work plan. For our new members, this is, as Mark would say, this is where we typically spend the majority of the meeting. So if you go into your agenda, I think it's the second last page, there's a chart. We just go item one by one. So these are the different projects that we have on our plate right now. So I just go through them and we have chit chats about them, and typically it leads to larger discussions. But you sort of see the format of our meeting as we go. So starting with number 1, landscape around the station parkette. What do we have here? Landscaping at station parkette for the train station signage. Pending the completion of the new sign. Yes, so I believe that was just, again, as it says, pending, once we have everything done at the train station, and integrate that budget into that. So that's, Mark, I look to you. For this meeting, should I give like a little background on each project just to help the new committee members?
I would not mind it.
Okay.
That might be helpful. It's your judgment as the chair, but that would be nice.
Perfect. So if you look at this chart, item number 1 ties into item number 5, which is the train station signage. So out on King Street, you know where you go get water if your well's not working or something like that?
In the
That-
mailboxes
In the
too.
mailboxes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a little rundown of an area, but anyways, that's where the original train station was. So, this committee picked up on a project that was originally initiated by the previous committee. And it's morphed into the same concept, but the outcome has changed from a very simple signage to a more, I don't want to say contemporary signage, Sean, but just flashier signage. And then,
More eye-catching signage.
yes, and then it also brought into a larger question of, you know, we have a real interest in putting historical signs throughout the township, so that it opened up the conversation of not just addressing projects one by one, but as a whole, in the sense of looking at essentially creating guidelines to guide any further projects in regards to color, text, like any typical policy you would have in that type of project related concepts. Anyways, it again has morphed after the latest budget with council, and it has changed into sourcing a switch stand and a little bit of signage and then landscaping around. That's what that project is all about. Okay. Restoration of, sorry, jumping back up to number 2, restoration of Springville and Ebenezer cemeteries, sorry. Annual review to be completed in the summer of 2025. So this is just an ongoing item for us. You'll see this in every work plan moving forward behind us as well. It literally is what it is. A group of volunteers volunteer their time and they go and they clean up the cemeteries every spring.
So we don't really clean them up, sorry.
That's okay. Yep.
So we go and
Clarify,
do an
I haven't done it.
inspection. So we have 2 cemeteries that we're responsible for the maintenance of. One being the Springville Pioneer Cemetery at the corner of Highway 7 in Sharpline. And the other one being the Ebenezer Cemetery, which is over on Stewart Line West. It is not as clearly marked, but there is a centralized cairn with stones in it. So what we do is sometime when the weather is decent, we'll go out and do an inspection of the monument itself and the landscaping around it, and then we will make recommendations from there. Like last year, we needed some landscaping improvements at Ebenezer. It had got a little bit overgrown, so our own Parks and Rec department go out and clean it up. If we need some stone repairs, there is money carried in the clerk's department budget to make those repairs, and Campbell Monuments is our kind of our go-to monument people. So that, and we do this every year just to make sure that those monuments are being maintained appropriately.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. And there's always, I'd like to remind, always volunteers would be much appreciated. So if that's something you would be interested in joining, or even 1 year and then another year, just note that. And spring will be, and spring, summer will be here before we know it. I think spring is here.
We'll be looking at the June meeting too.
Okay.
And it's not a big deal in terms of volunteering your time, like it takes like an hour and a half tops kind of thing, so.
Happy to help.
I'm interested in that.
Okay, great, perfect. Item number 3 is a review and update of the current heritage bylaws. So we had 2 presented at the last meeting for committee members. I'm not sure how much has been filled in here. I can give you a little update that we went back and forth. So we passed our bylaws last meeting for 2 different properties. The owners were notified, they reviewed, they had a few comments, so those came back. I did another review and edit. Karen shared those again. One of the 2, they got approval, sign off, whatnot, so it is good to go to council. It is going to council. The second one, there was a couple of more comments, questions. That one specifically, we were able to include some interior attributes. So I think the owners of the house have been extremely helpful. And I think it's fantastic that they're willing to include those and clarify what is actually heritage. So there's just a few more tweaks and then I think we'll get there eventually. And then it will go to council as well. Okay.
Can I just add something there? Just as a little bit more background, this project started a few years ago because we have heritage bylaws for properties that are that were designated, but we found that there wasn't a whole lot of meat to them. There wasn't a whole lot of detail, even for the if a property sold and the new owner wanted to make renovations, there wasn't a lot there. So using Ashley's expertise and Karen's expertise, we hired a student actually a few years ago, Connor.
He was no longer a student, but yes.
He was no longer a student,
Yeah,
but he was a new graduate. And so he kind of went through, inventoried them all and their architectural features And so now we're cleaning up the bylaws, going through the process of updating them. So, and thank God we have Ashley because she was really instrumental in this.
Well, it's been a team effort because I couldn't have done it without Connor and the
Yeah,
township's
he was great,
involvement.
yeah.
And I'll just add on to a bit of the background there. It is a huge undertaking. So
Yes.
being an owner of a heritage property, and obviously seeing your bylaw. But two things, they didn't have much meat to them, and they were not to the current requirements that the government has for heritage bylaws for designated properties. So all of the bylaws, I believe, have been updated in some sense, including a heritage attributes, been converted to the template that is required by the government. So I do them in chunks and I do them as quickly as possible. We've been attacking them, but our township has quite a few designated properties, kudos to us. So it's just sort of an ongoing, truly an ongoing project, but we will get there eventually. But I think it's a worthwhile task, especially as Millbrook Cabin Township grows. Because it's beneficial both for the town and owners, because then you have a document. And as a committee, I'll just also explain, owners of heritage buildings, they are required, any changes to the properties to bring it to the committee for review and approval. So we use the bylaw to review against the proposal, and we see if it's in conflict, if it's in the best interest of the heritage property, and we go from there. So I think as I said, we grow, it's very important to have that documentation complete. So we are trying our best.
Yeah, if I
to get
could
those
just
done.
add, so I think we have about 51 bylaws or 52 maybe. And as Ashley said, so Connor went through all of the base. So we just are in the fine tuning part of it now with Ashley's help. Then they come back here for your review. Once you're good, then we circulate, we're required to by law to the property owner, get their comments. And once we're in a situation where they're in agreement with the content, then it gets presented to council.
Perfect. So I'm assuming when it gets to my property, I will not be part of,
Yes, so we just asked you to step out. Yeah.
as a conflict.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
assuming that is
Yes.
how that
Yeah.
works.
Okay, moving on to Heritage Awards, and I just realized we're doing sort of like a little bit of explanation, so I apologize if I seem like I'm going on and on, but I figured it'd just be helpful to understand where we are with different projects. So the Heritage Awards, again, this is another line item that you'll see continuous for us. We currently, the advertisement is going to be published in the Millbrook Times to encourage nominations. Karen, Bridget, maybe I just look to you because you've been more involved with that from the get-go.
So a few years ago, the committee established just a small budget to recognize achievements in the community for a property owner that maybe updated their property and restored or renewed heritage features. But we also wanted to recognize anybody in the community who is instrumental in educating or promoting heritage and knowledge. So we've established a small budget that allows for an award to recognize their efforts. It is an ongoing nomination, so nomination forms are on the website. They can be at times a little tricky to find. Sometimes I try and bump them up to the front of the page, but then other times other information has to replace it on the homepage of the website. But there is a nomination form. Heritage Month was February, so we did put an ad in the Millbrook Times, and we did social media blast to encourage people. To date, we don't have any nominations, so. If you know of anybody, you can nominate somebody. So if you know of anybody that is, working on a heritage project or has been successfully completed a heritage project, please feel free to nominate them. We do have paper forms at the desk. So we're trying to just keep it in people's
Or
minds.
someone who's done something related to heritage.
Yes, yeah.
Above and beyond.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Words, or train station, so it kind of touched on this, but I'm gonna hand it over to you, because I kind of see it as your baby.
Then for the benefit of the new members, this was a budget item, about $7,000 has been allotted for a mural. And at the time, the gazebo that's there, that's where they thought they would have fixed the mural to. As a urban planner and wayfinding signage, historical restoration, in my career, I looked at the idea and I went, I don't know how we're gonna put the mural on that building and have it really stand out or not create visual issues. And I came up with the idea of going with a grander type of wayfinding sign, which then worked into, well, what about a wayfinding strategy for the township? We don't have one. So that kind of was a little bit tenuous, but in any event, we developed the concept. Because the previous mural was what council had approved, we had to take the new plan, plus the concept of having the wayfinding strategy put in place to go to council, along with an ask for an additional $7,000. They approved it, and that was unpassed. That's kind of what it roughly looked like. And then when there was a meeting prior to Christmas that I wasn't able to attend, but I was able to see it online. And the mayor happened to be at the meeting, and he brought up some tremendous points that I'd never even thought about, and that's gonna be one of the most expensive signs the township has ever done. We don't have a strategy in place yet. It's a trailhead, there's no parking, who's gonna go there? Maybe we're better off putting that signage of a much grander scale down in the new downtown park whenever that's built. So then I'm kind of going, oh, I want to see this thing disappear into the vapors. So I came to the committee afterwards and said, I've got this idea. And I've done this before with City of Hamilton. We'll get a railway artifact, which is in context with what used to be there, and convert that as a base for a sign. So everybody went, okay, that sounds like a good idea, and we can do that within the $7,000 budget. So I've done a scheme, which we now have to take to council, to tell them, okay, now, this is what we're doing, to get them to adopt that, yes, we're in agreement. And then we
That's
can,
amazing.
start, trying to allocate a switch stand, which I already did, but it was on Marketplace and it disappeared before I could buy it, so.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Source another one.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
that's kind of the progress that we're at. So, it's still got some height to it, and looks like it's right out of a railway, so I think it.
It's fantastic.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the intent is to put a few words
Yeah,
in with the switch.
Yeah.
And then have the QR code or whatever miss
Yeah, yeah.
thingy doing here, you know, the
Yeah.
techno girl. And then have that attached to some additional information.
Excuse me, John, sorry to steal.
It's a nice
all your
way of calling me a
stuff.
geek.
Uh,
Yeah.
Sorry, John, just, sorry to steal your stuff after the meeting again. I will take this from you online and I'm just gonna scan it so we can add it to additional documents on the website. Because this is also different than the concept that you shared at the meeting. No, it is a more developed version of the concept that you shared at the meeting last time around. And just for committee members, you know, the stuff that John shared at the last meeting is now on the website where the agendas are under additional documents. So.
And sort of as a tangent, a lot of the projects that we do that are signage or communicate history, they typically also include a QR code because it's nearly impossible to get the whole story. So that has become very much commonplace in our projects. Is we sort of get the Coles notes or the most important details, and then you can scan the QR code and it takes you to the township website, and then it gives you the whole background of the specific site, person, project, whatnot.
Yeah, and with the train station, so I just done a very very little research, but there seems to be a lot of information available. So I did talk to Bridget about, okay, instead of trying to distill all that down into a few lines, maybe we just attach those original
Pieces.
because there's stuff in the Green and Pleasant Land, you know, there's stuff that have been in a number of times, done by Historical Society members, so there's a lot of information, excuse me, that we can avail ourselves of to go with that.
Yeah, and then it morphs into walking tours with your phone and something the town can market and the digital experience in Millbrook.
So sorry, I caught that you had one on Marketplace, but then it went, so we're just at the stage.
Well, once council approves
Okay.
what we're doing, then we have it's been approved, the budget's been approved.
The $7,000 in the budget has been
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
So once the concept is approved by council,
Yeah.
excuse me, then we can spend the money in our budget.
Right.
Okay. Having said that, you have to recognize that it does take time for us to pay for, like, generate that money. So we have to, you know, I can talk to you about that later.
Okay.
Like, if you find it, I can't get you a check in 2 minutes.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
But in a day,
We appreciate your efforts, John, just for the committee members to know, as part of the reason why we had to pump the brakes a little bit on this was that, the report that was delivered and near the end of summer to council required that the council basically give a sign off on the final design as one of the recommendations. So I think we have the design finalized, and it's good that you're looking into procuring a switch, but we need that. We definitely want the sign off before we purchase anything. Yeah.
And I don't
Yes,
want to
so
sit
if
in my
all-
lawn because I bought my credit card.
Yeah.
Right, this is
So,
tough.
yeah, so it's my intention, so the next council meeting is April 7th. So I have from a week from Friday to finish that report to get it on the agenda. So that is our intention to do that.
Anything else, John, you want to add, or?
No, that's good.
You're
Thanks.
good, okay. Item number 6 is the existing mural restoration and maintenance. So downtown, if you're looking north, there's the exposure of the one building, and remind me, what's the house called that's set back from the street?
Tinny
The
property
Tinny
is,
property?
yeah.
So to the right of the Tinny property, if you're looking north, there's a mural of the old train station there that was in quite disrepair a number of years ago. One of the projects the committee took on was restoring that mural. What we've now done is held a line item every year, and it looks like the update here is they were typically doing a maintenance touch-up in the fall. We've asked if they could do it in the spring because people are downtown. It's a bit more lively in the summer, spring and summer downtown. So it's, you know, fresh and pristine during the most lovely months of the month. So that's what that project is, and it's just ongoing. It's under contracted services. So it's just making sure that that mural stays in good condition for as long as possible. Item number 7 is the DL Springville and Ebenezer Cemetery signage. This one, I have to give credit so much to Karen. She's been carrying this one. It's the sort of the summary of it is that she's created verbiage for signage for the Springville and Ebenezer cemeteries. The draft wording for the Springville Cemetery is ready for review. Ebenezer wording to be ready for review in June 2025. So the wording for Springville is the last page in your agenda package, or Mark's pulled it up here on the screen for us to take a look at. Again, another concept there was, no, remind me, was this the one that was difficult to find information, or is that the other one?
The other one.
The other
So
one.
this one, there is, through you, Chair, there is information on, there's way more information on the Springville Church.
Right.
There is not so much information available on the cemetery itself. But through the assistance of Kim McLeod from Gavin Millbrook Historical Society, we've been able to find some additional information. So the wording in this slide, I tried to make it a little bit interesting, and then it's not all dry facts, but it's just some interesting things. And then again, in the QR code, we can attach additional information. Primarily, that additional information will be about the Associated Church, which is now on the other side of the road, which is now in disrepair, which is now owned by the Ministry of Transportation, which is now slated for demolition at some point in time, we believe. So, so the wording before you today is my best effort at this moment in time, given the information that is available.
Okay. Mark, question for you. Do we need, can I just include the approval of this wording as a motion for all the projects, or do we need one specific to this?
Unless the committee has some specific advice or modification of the wording, I would say it can be approved as part of the updates of the work plan. But if you wanted to say, we would, I'm not gonna make a comment on Karen's work, but let's just say hypothetically, the committee would like this wording to be longer or changes or puts something like some very specific feedback or advice, then we would have a separate motion is what I would say.
Okay.
So,
One more thing, sorry, just so the names like the Bellwillico, Bothwell, that's information I have available from photos and information right now. But now that the weather and the snow is disappeared, I would go out and check and make sure I have all of the names.
okay. Okay. Well, Karen, I'll take the lead here. I think the wording is fantastic. I know this has been on the agenda for a long time. And I definitely do not think that it reads dry.
No,
Especially,
Yeah.
I especially like the
Unknown
area of the
man.
unknown man.
Yeah.
Murder mystery?
Historical mystery.
Fantastic.
It's it's nice and tight, right?
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
you made it appealing. So you grabbed people's attention right at the beginning, but then it's also nice and tight. It's not easy to do that, so.
Thank you very much.
No, we're getting this done this year.
Yeah,
That's right.
okay.
Okay.
So I think we can just move on to the next one and include it in our general work plan motion. Okay,
Great. Okay, so I'll just make a comment about Ebenezer. So again, Kim McLeod from the Historical Society has been very helpful. We do have some information, but there's not a lot. That cemetery does not appear to be attached to a church in our township. So, we do have an old deed, but I'm still looking for some additional information. But I've said to Ashley, you know, perfection is the enemy of good enough. So I'm coming in June with something. Cause we need to get this done.
okay, item number 8 is our cultural mapping project. The Historical Society finished a list of high priority cultural significant locations to pull information for them. The hiring process for Heritage Coordinator summer student position has begun. So maybe we'll start with just the update pertaining to the student, and then we'll move on to sort of the meat of the project.
Okay, so the township does, the committee in their budget asked for money for a summer student. The township has applied for funding on top of that, which we have not heard yes or no yet, but we do have council approval for the budget for a summer student. That position has been advertised. We did receive applications.
Great.
Yes, and interviews are scheduled for next Monday and Tuesday.
Amazing.
So hopefully we will find a suitable candidate that can help us with the cultural mapping project. So for committee members, we do have cultural mapping that is available on the Peterborough County GIS. And in that cultural mapping, it lists, there's heritage information, there's obviously cultural information, there's business information. It is probably more than 10 years old at this moment in time, so it needs to be updated. So the purpose of this position is for that person to work with volunteers from the Historical Society to update what we already have and refresh it and renew it, add to it, take away the stuff that is outdated and no longer applicable, and then to identify new sites that we should be identifying. So they're not going to be designated as per the bylaw, but they will be identified on the cultural mapping as assets to the township of Cavan-Monaghan. We can then use that when we get ourselves together and we can look at possibly entertaining new designations.
Yeah.
We can take the information from the cultural map. So I envision that the student will be doing lots of research, they'll be working with Historical Society to identify places, they'll be taking photographs, they'll be doing the research to identify anything that is historically or culturally significant about the property, the building, the person, the tree, whatever the asset is. So it is a 16-week period of time. And certainly at our next meeting in June, I would be able to introduce you hopefully to that person.
Great, very exciting, good. John, do you want to update us on the list from the Historical Society? Have you been involved in that, or?
Other than just at our last meeting, I basically said we're waiting for funding for a summer student.
Okay,
So until we get a go or no go.
Okay.
Then we're kind of like,
okay, so once they.
yeah,
Okay, okay. Just thinking process and being as efficient as possible so they can hit the ground running once someone is hired, because you do have candidates. Could we communicate to these historical society that it looks like it's good to go?
Mhm.
Or, okay,
Mhm.
okay, fantastic.
so you would wager 70-30 that you're gonna get the money? Or-
We have the money,
Oh, you have the money?
we have the money.
Okay,
The money's not an issue.
yeah, okay,
I would say that we're gonna interview and depending on how the interview goes, right?
so boots on the ground for the student would be when?
May.
May, okay.
So once we hire someone, John, I would be in contact with you to find out who is the appropriate contact person at the Historical Society.
Okay, so our next board meeting is later this month. But we do have advertising trivia night at the Legion on the 26th on Friday. It's a blast. We pack the place out. So I can mention to the committee members, we get your the juices going.
Get the juices going,
Yeah.
because that would be helpful.
Yeah.
In terms of identifying.
Yep.
New assets.
You said it's on the 29th?
I think it's the 6th. Is that the Friday?
I have my calendar, on my phone, I'll check.
And sorry, Karen, the interviews were for next Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, so we're all super soon. Okay, great.
Yeah, and I believe that. Yeah.
The last Friday
We have
of the
several
month, John?
candidates.
Okay.
Should be the 28th, if my
Okay.
calendar is correct.
What's received?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, great.
You can also see it on our website. It's for County Monaghan Historical
My
Society.
sister-in-law just moved in with us and she loves trivia nights. So she'd like that.
Okay, great. Well, that'll be a big project for the summer. Great. It's really good for getting that underway.
Yeah, just so everyone knows too, so I have been in touch with Peterborough County because it is hosted on the GIS website.
Yep.
And so we're working with the GIS section as well. So we have some technology things to work out on our end.
With our geek.
Yeah, because we're gonna want pictures, right, and how you attach. So if you go into the GIS and pull up, 1, 2, 3, 4 Zion line.
Yeah.
And there's a barn there, let's say, then there would be a photo of the barn and some information that you could evaluate.
Okay.
So that's.
Great. And sorry, just another tangent on that. Once we have that list, are we gonna almost like prioritize the structures? Like some of them, like I'm almost thinking like barns might be worth looking at first, to eliminate any that aren't existing, or like, oh, this one's in like disrepair or something like that, just so we tackle priority items first in case not everything can be addressed in their 16 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would appreciate input
Okay,
from
yes,
committee members about what you think is a priority.
okay. I would be happy to help with that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Item number 9 is our update on the wayfinding signage policy. Staff to provide update on the status of the policy.
Okay, so wayfinding signage policy has to be generated by the township. It's not a project of this committee,
Yes.
although we have an interest in it.
Right.
So it's on the radar
Okay.
that staff will begin working on that policy, and it might be something that we ask our summer student to assist with. So the intention is to generate a policy that will be ultimately approved by council and then would be implemented after that approval. So then any future signage would follow those guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we leave that on our work plan just so it doesn't get lost? Even if there is no updates, at least it's there. Mark, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I can't speak absolutely, but I'm basically 98% certain the committee would be consulted in some way in the drafting process of the policy. So it will be brought to the committee to review, and we would welcome your feedback on this because,
Okay.
Through you, Chair Karen, I have probably a terabyte of wayfinding strategy precedent projects from everywhere that I've collected, and some are relatively new, so if you want me to send you some stuff,
That would be fantastic.
okay. I'll be about 20 emails. Or I'll bring you a thumb drive.
Could you bring, yes, please.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Do you want me to give you a thumb drive?
Well, you got an extra one, yeah.
I'll see.
Get a special one, that'd be great.
We don't have anything special, but I'll see if we can get one.
Okay.
I will say, John, on our end, I know that I've done a little scan of them, just the jurisdictional scan is the public and inter, to get a sense of what they are to help with the drafting process.
Okay, item number 10 is our Springville Church artifacts. Committee to discuss plan on how to manage the artifacts removed from the Springville Church. Oh, so Karen, please have to do this on that one.
Okay. So as I've indicated, when we talked about the cemetery, Springville Church is now owned by the Ministry of Transportation. It is in disrepair and will ultimately be demolished, we believe. There is no time frame for that at this moment. I keep in touch with MTO staff about that. I think it was not last summer, it was the summer before, wasn't it, Ashley? Was it last summer? We met on site.
Yes, like June of 2023.
Three, yes. So we met on site with the consulting team that was dealing with the church property for the Ministry of Transportation. And we identified a number of artifacts, or I'm not sure what the right word
I think
is,
that's
from the
right, yeah.
church that the committee would like saved. And we would like MTO to donate to the township of Cabot-Monaghan. So there were a couple of windows. I could give you the photos to post on the website if you want, of the things that we picked. So there was 2 windows, there was some bricks that were just stacked up,
Yep.
and there was in
The drive shed?
the drive shed, there was a rail at the back where the horses were attached to, so it still had the rings. So we asked for that as well. They have not committed that they will give those items to us, but I think I'm gonna be optimistic that we could find ourselves as holders of those. So we need to, what are we gonna do with them? So over the course of the next few months, next year, we need to, well, before we get into budget discussions next time, we need to have a plan of what we're gonna do with them, or what we think we might like to do with them, and what budget implication that might have. So when it comes time for this committee to ask for a budget for 2026, we include some or all of what we're gonna do with those items. Or if the committee decides, okay, yeah, we thought we wanted them, now we don't, then that's okay too. We just need to have a plan.
Okay.
And a budget to go with the plan.
To you, Chair Stewart, Karen was just saying this in terms of budget timelines, and I just want to make it explicit. My advice would be, because our budget meeting will probably be the September meeting, because I believe that is our last meeting of the year. So my advice would be, it might be good to kind of have this on the plate for the next meeting, just so that you have a plan and you have the summertime to explore what would be the number for the specific budget request. So just wanted to
Okay.
make you aware of that.
Perfect. Actually, I wrote that, I think we are sharing agreement. I wrote right here, new projects budget requests. And I thought, perfect opportunity. So I'll lead into that, is as Karen and Mark explained, what we have to do is September 2025, finalize, budget requests. So that's how we generate our projects, is we come up with concepts, we essentially just put a dollar amount to them, they get presented to council, we cross our fingers that they approve, and then we go from there. So, our next meeting is in June, so if people can start thinking, it's, you know, as we start getting things off our work plan, what we would like to add to it, and present that to, or we could discuss that at the June meeting. That's fair, right, in June? And then we can sort of tweak and finalize that in September, and, then it goes to council.
To you, Chair, sir. I'm sorry, you didn't give me anything to include in the meeting, I hope, Karen and I.
No, I did not.
Okay, good. I was gonna feel like a fool if I spaced. I could, if you want to give me some of the documents, I could circulate them to committee members to let them brainstorm.
Okay, so I don't have any documents, but I have photos of the assets that we've asked for. So I will send you those.
Yeah.
And you can then circulate, just so everybody can
That's
clearly
perfect.
see, what we've asked for. Okay.
Through you, Chair Karen, we have talked about the old bell, and apparently it's in the storage container.
Are you talking, so we have two different bell issues,
Right.
okay? So the bell at the Springville Church is missing.
Dun, dun, dun.
But we don't have an issue, it's just not there.
It's just not there, so it's missing. So when the, was it a windstorm, Nils?
Yeah.
Or California Edition, sorry. Windstorm took the top of the steeple down and it can't, and then sometime when it was down, the bell disappeared. So, we've asked around a little bit, but we have been unable to determine where it is. So if you know people who know things about the bell, it would, you know, it is part of the church.
For whom the bell tolls.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The second bell is the bell that was out of the old municipal office downtown. It's the one that's in storage,
Okay,
and it's the one that is part of the new downtown park plan.
right. So my question was, is that place where it's being stored, is there room that we could store these artifacts if we need to, if we get them, and then all of a sudden, where are we gonna put them?
I can't answer that, but we can ask the question.
Yeah. Storage space is at a premium. We always kind of tuck things in a corner
Yeah,
and, yeah.
Yeah, I guess from our perspective, though, we don't, if we're gonna take these assets, we don't want to just store them, we want to display them,
Right,
right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like having buying nice art and then leaving it, keeping it in the closet,
Yeah.
like,
but sometimes it's kind of like a sale, right? I want that.
yes,
I haven't finished my renovations yet, so I can't put it
yes.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think as long as we have a plan, for sure, we'll investigate the storage, but I think that the purpose of having it on the work program today is to get your mind around, okay, what is the plan? Is it something that because they're related to the Springville Church, we think we should be in that neighborhood? Should it be at the Springville Cemetery with, again, a little QR code to talk about? That might be a way to marry the church with the cemetery. Should that be, you know, in the downtown park or here, like, I don't know, I'm open-minded, but it just to get your,
Mhm.
because you're all very creative people, so you might have some great ideas about, or you might think this is just total crap, we don't want it.
Like, for instance, the bricks, there was discussion of not taking them across to the cemetery and like somehow just laying them in the ground as pavers. And then
They won't last.
It won't last.
there was at least a thought of that,
Yeah.
whether that was the right answer or not, but
Could you make it
that-
part of the signage?
perhaps,
Like,
because I was just giving an example of,
Yeah.
of something instead of just going into a dumpster.
Be sealed and stuff like that, be part of the signage.
Maybe
so
just
that-
need to be on like a horizontal surface.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if we can walk away from today's meeting, start to think creatively and, we'll circulate what was requested. I will say that the one being that we've requested is quite interesting. Not only does it have the metal hook still that you would just put the horses, rope through, but like you can still see all the non-marks
Yeah.
in it. It was quite fantastic.
But that's really, it's like a speaking history.
Yes,
Otherwise, people would look at it and go, what's this old piece of gnarly wood? Right, so you gotta,
Well,
jazz it up.
honestly, it's,
Some of the horses and go out on.
Yeah.
it's just a small tangent because
Was
we
it
did do
NPR?
the site visit.
All
It
the
was
riding horses
quite,
before.
quite neat because we went into the drive shed, okay, and you could see, okay, it wasn't just for vehicles, but just for horses, that's great. Then there was this wood door, so we opened the door and peeked in, and it was like, oh, that's the outhouse. Still in fantastic condition, and how many seats were there? I think it was like 2 or 3,
I was gonna say 3.
and it was communal.
Nice to meet you, I haven't seen you in a while.
First public walkthrough.
Oh, my goodness.
You haven't, yeah. Okay,
Oh,
sorry for that little,
yeah.
I just thought it
That
was
should be
funny.
noted somewhere. I
It
think
was-
that's a
True that.
really interesting thing.
Actually, that would be.
Yeah.
If you're, if
It
you're
would
talking,
be,
if you're talking about these brief descriptions to grab people's attention, that
that
definitely
would be
would.
one.
Cause they wouldn't be thinking communal washroom back in the times. Right? So-
Yeah, they did it back then, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny little historical facts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our work plan. So I guess we just need a motion for it. Do you
Also,
have any suggestions or have anything?
oh, no, it's just a regular motion to update the work plan, but we will need a motion also just to, again, adopt the documents that John Culver provided as
Okay.
additional items to the agenda,
Okay, would you like me to do that one first?
if you do not mind.
Okay, so, it's a motion just to pick up the additional, design that John has presented today in regards to the, railway, switch.
Yeah.
Can I have a mover and a seconder? Okay,
I'll second it.
seconder, thank you, Deborah. All in favor? Carried, great, okay. And then our work plan motion, so just our work plan as discussed today.
Just to update for the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee to update the work plan with what was discussed.
Okay, great. Again, movers okay. John, seconder? I guess I can second. All in favor? Carried. Great. Okay. And that brings us to adjournment. Our next meeting date is June 19th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Again, if you can, I guess, task to come to that meeting, I think I'm gonna start doing this, is percolating some ideas to the artifacts that will be circulated and let's have a discussion about ideas, concepts, and associated budgets for our work plan for essentially what will be 2026. Other than that, I bring the meeting to closure, so if I can have a mover and seconder.
I'll leave it.
Deborah, seconder?
One second.
Great, thank you, Chanel, and all in favor? Carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Ending the live stream, though it starts
Well,
very
we're
good.
done.